I stood on the rooftop terrace of my penthouse in Nashville, watching the city lights blur below me, and hit confirm. $8,000. That's what my mother said she needed to secure the venue deposit for my sister's wedding. The transfer went through instantly. 3 seconds later, my phone lit up with a text. Not from my mother, from my sister. Hey, so we talked about it, and honestly, the wedding photos need to feel really cohesive. Brendan's family is super traditional, and I just think having you there would make things awkward. You know how you are. We're keeping it intimate. Don't be weird about it. I read it twice, then a third time. She used my $8,000 to rent the ballroom, and then she uninvited me from the party inside it. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I want to see how far this reaches. I didn't cry. I didn't call her back. I sat down on the terrace floor in my work clothes back against the railing and just let the Nashville skyline sit with me for a while. My name is Ivy. I'm 31 years old. And that night, with my phone face down on the concrete beside me, I finally stopped lying to myself about what my family actually was. My mother's name is Carol. My sister's name is Amber. And for as long as I can remember, I had been the third wheel in their two-person club. It started small, the way these things always do. When I was 12 and Amber was 15, my mother threw Amber a birthday party with a DJ and a rented photo booth. My birthday that same year was a grocery store cake and a card signed by both of them that said, "Many happy returns," like I was a business associate. When I brought it up once, carefully, testing the waters, my mother said, "Amber's going through a hard time socially. You're the strong one. You don't need all that." I learned early that being capable was a punishment. In our family, Amber was the crystal. I was the shelf. I paid for a lot of shelves over the years. Amber's car insurance when she rear-ended someone at 22 and didn't want our stepfather to find out. My mother's medical bill co-pays the year she had her knee replaced. The security deposit on Amber's first apartment, which she swore she'd pay back and didn't. Small amounts, mostly. Nothing that broke me individually. Everything that added up. They never asked me how I was doing it. They weren't curious about my life in any real way. They knew I worked in tech. They thought that meant I had a stable job with decent benefits and a 401k I probably wasn't contributing enough to. What they didn't know was that 18 months earlier, I had sold a data privacy software tool I'd spent 4 years building in my apartment, mostly on nights and weekends, mostly alone, to a firm in Austin for just under $2 million. After taxes and my attorney's cut, I walked away with a little over 1.3. I didn't tell them. I bought the penthouse. I kept driving my old Civic. I kept my mouth shut and watched. The night Amber sent that text, I sat on the rooftop for a long time. Not because I was devastated. I was past devastation. I was running a different kind of calculation. They thought I was the family's financial buffer because I was the responsible one. They didn't know I was the one who had been quietly getting free. I looked at my phone. I had a thread of 12 messages from my mother. All variations of Amber didn't mean it like that, and you know how stressed she is about the wedding, and please don't cause a scene by making this about you. I hadn't said a single word, I hadn't responded, and somehow I was already causing a scene. I put the phone down and started thinking. I didn't want to throw a party out of spite. That's not what this was. What I wanted, what I had wanted for a very long time without letting myself admit it, was for the people who had been quietly discarded the same way I had been to sit somewhere warm and good and know that they were worth something, that their company was worth something. I thought about my dad's sister, Aunt Rhonda. She'd been frozen out of every family event since my parents divorced 11 years ago. Not because she did anything wrong, but because my mother decided she was part of the old chapter, and old chapters needed to stay closed. Rhonda lived alone in Knoxville. She sent me birthday texts every year that I could tell she thought about for longer than the message itself. I thought about my old college roommate's dad, who my mother had loudly deemed not our kind of people at a backyard barbecue once when she thought no one was listening. I thought about a list of people who had been quietly slid off the table to make room for Amber's aesthetic. I opened my laptop and started planning. Not a rival event, a real one. The kind of event I had always wanted to host but talked myself out of because I didn't want to seem like I was showing off. Amber's wedding was a Saturday in April. at the Garden Stone Ballroom in Franklin, Tennessee. Black tie, formal invitations on cream cardstock, a 12-piece band, a florist who charged by the stem. My mother had talked about it for 2 years like it was the Met Gala. I booked the Vanderbilt suite at the Grand Hyatt in Nashville. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a private terrace overlooking the river. Chef-curated dinner for 20, a jazz quartet a friend had recommended. I didn't do it to compete. I did it because it was Saturday, because I had the money, and because for the first time I decided to spend it on people who would actually feel it. I called Aunt Rhonda first. The phone rang 3 times and she answered with that cautious hello she always used, the voice of someone who had learned not to expect good news. "Rhonda," I said, "I'm having dinner Saturday. Real dinner. The kind with tablecloths and jazz. I need you there." There was a pause long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "Ivy," she said slowly, "your sister's wedding is Saturday." "I know," I said. "I wasn't invited." Another pause. Then, quietly, "Oh, sweetheart." "Don't," I said, not unkindly. "Just pack a bag. I'll send a car." I spent 3 days making calls, texts, careful, specific invitations to people who had been taught to expect nothing. Rhonda. My college roommate Greta, who my mother had once described as a lot in the tone people reserve for someone they find exhausting. My old neighbor Harold, 81 years old, widowed 2 years ago, who still left a voicemail on my birthday every year that ended with, "I hope you know you turned out wonderful." 22 people said yes. I hired a photographer, not a content creator, not someone with a ring light and a smartphone, a photographer with a proper editorial portfolio who shot for Nashville Lifestyles and charged accordingly. I wanted documentation, not of a party, of a moment. Saturday arrived clear and bright. I checked the weather for Franklin. Partly cloudy, 54 degrees. I checked Nashville, 71 and sunny. The terrace was warm enough for cocktails outside before dinner. I put on a dress I'd bought 6 months ago and hadn't worn anywhere yet. Navy silk, the kind of thing that makes you stand up straighter. Rhonda arrived first. I met her in the lobby and she stopped walking when she saw me. Really stopped, the way you do when something catches you off guard. "You look like $1,000,000, she said. "Closer to 1.3, I said, and she laughed. A real laugh, and I hugged her for longer than I usually let myself. The suite was everything I wanted it to be. The table was set with white linens and low floral arrangements and candles that didn't smell like anything, just light. The jazz quartet was in the corner playing something unhurried and warm. Harold sat next to Rhonda, and within 20 minutes they were arguing cheerfully about whether Nashville or Memphis had better barbecue. Greta found me by the terrace windows and squeezed my hand and didn't say anything because she knew me well enough to know I didn't need her to. I had hired a professional videographer in addition to the photographer. Aerial footage was part of the package, a drone shot over the terrace at golden hour, capturing the river, the skyline, the long table full of people who were laughing and eating and entirely unbothered. I had thought about whether to post anything. I went back and forth, and then I thought about the $8,000. I thought about you know how you are. I thought about 31 years of being the shelf. I posted the video to my Instagram at 7:15. I wrote the caption carefully. "Spent today with the people who have always shown up for me, no invitation required." To anyone who feels like they're on the outside looking in, sometimes the outside has better lighting. Happy Saturday. I tagged Rhonda. I tagged Harold. I tagged Greta. I put my phone screen down on the window ledge and went back to the table. By the time dessert arrived, the screen was flashing. I didn't pick it up. Harold told a story about the summer of 1987 that had the whole table leaning in. Rhonda cried a little during it, the kind of crying you do when something is beautiful rather than sad. Greta refilled everyone's glasses without being asked. I sat at the head of my table, in my navy dress, and felt something I hadn't felt at a family event in years. Like I belonged there. Because I did. I'd built it. At 9:45, I finally picked up my phone. 31 missed calls, 14 voicemails, a text thread with my mother's that had gone to 47 messages. I put the phone on speaker and played the first voicemail quietly enough that only I could hear. My mother's voice was tightly controlled, the way it got when she was furious and performing calm at the same time. Ivy, I don't know what you think you're doing, but Brendan's aunt saw your post and sent it to the whole family group chat, and now everyone thinks something is wrong. Call me back. Now, I skipped ahead. The second one had dropped the performance entirely. Do you have any idea what you've done? Amber is in the bridal suite sobbing. She says you did this on purpose. Her photographer is asking questions because guests keep checking their phones. You are ruining her wedding day, and you are not even here. Call me. I skipped again. The fourth voicemail was Amber herself. She was not sobbing. She was sharp and fast and furious. You posted that on purpose. You timed it. I know you did. You think this is funny? Half my guests think there's a family drama happening. Brendan's mother pulled him aside during cocktail hour. His mother, Ivy. This is my wedding. This is the most important day of my life, and you had to make it about yourself. You're pathetic. You've always been pathetic. Call Mom back. I set the phone down. Then I picked it up again and checked the post. It had been shared over 300 times. The comments were very clear about whose side they were on. People were tagging Amber's public event page. Someone had found the wedding hashtag and was posting my video under it. Strangers were asking why the sister who funded the venue deposit was eating dinner alone across town. I hadn't said any of that in the caption. I hadn't mentioned the money. I hadn't mentioned Amber once. I didn't need to. The story told itself. I called my mother back just before 10. She answered on the first ring. Finally, she said, "Take the post down, Ivy. Right now." "No," I said. "Excuse me?" "No, I'm not taking it down." Her voice shifted into something colder. "You're being incredibly selfish. Do you understand what tonight means to your sister? Everything we've worked for, the $8,000, I said, that I wired you 3 weeks ago for the venue deposit." Silence. "That money went to the Gardenstone Ballroom," I said, "which hosted Amber's wedding tonight, the wedding I wasn't invited to, 3 days after the wire cleared. I have the transfer record. I have her text telling me not to come. I have the timeline." My mother's voice came back carefully, like she was choosing each word with tweezers. "That money was a gift you offered." "I can send the texts," I said, "the ones where you said it was a loan and you'd pay me back once the gift registry money came in. I saved them." More silence. "Why are you doing this?" she finally said. It was smaller than her usual voice. "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I had dinner with people I love. I took some photos. I posted them. That's it. You timed it. I had dinner at the same time as the wedding because I wasn't invited to the wedding. Those things are related." There was a long pause. In the background, on her end, I could hear music from the reception, the 12-piece band, the one the $8,000 helped book. "Amber wants to talk to you," my mother said. "I'm sure she does," I said. "I'll be here." Amber called 4 minutes later. She had clearly stepped somewhere quiet. Her voice was almost steady. "I need you to take that post down," she said. "Please." I noticed the please. It was new. "I understand that it's been disruptive," I said. "Brendan's family thinks we're a mess. His mother keeps asking questions. This is my wedding night, Ivy. My wedding night, My night. I know," I said. "I missed it. You're doing this because you're jealous." "Amber," I said, "I had 22 people at a private dinner in a suite at the Grand Hyatt tonight. I'm not jealous of a ballroom I helped pay for." A pause. "You keep bringing up the money," she said. "Because you took it and then uninvited me," I said. 3 days later. By text. "We were under so much stress, I know," I said. "You mentioned that in the text. Right after you told me having me there would make things awkward." She didn't answer. "I'm not asking for anything from you," I said. "I'm not asking you to apologize tonight or make a statement or anything. I just want you to understand that the reason your guests are asking questions is because the story is unusual. A woman funds a family event and gets uninvited from it. People have thoughts about that. What do you want?" she said. It wasn't really a question. "Tonight? Nothing. I'm going to finish dessert and go to bed. And the money?" I had thought about this. I had thought about it carefully over weeks before any of this happened. I hadn't gone into Saturday planning to trigger this conversation. But once it was happening, I knew what I wanted to say. I want it paid back, I said. All of it, not just the 8,000. I've been adding it up. Amber's security deposit in 2019. Mom's co-pays in 2021. The car insurance thing. All of it. I have records. She stopped. That's a lot of money. About $34,000, I said. Give or take. I have an itemized list. I can email it. You can't be serious. I'm not threatening you, I said. I'm not going to sue anyone. I'm just telling you that I know what's owed, and I'm asking for it back. If you want to pay it over time, that's fine. I'll send the list. You can figure out a timeline. She was quiet for a long time. You planned this, she said. No, I said. I planned dinner. You provided the context. I heard her exhale slowly. In the background, the band was playing something with a slow trumpet line, pretty and nostalgic. I hoped her first dance was nice. I genuinely did. Whatever she was still my sister. That didn't mean I owed her silence. It meant I wanted her to live well. Just separately. I have to go back inside, she said. I know. Go enjoy your reception, Amber. She hung up. I set the phone on the window ledge. Harold was telling another story. Rhonda was laughing so hard she had covered her face with her napkin. The city below us was all lit up and moving, indifferent and gorgeous. I poured myself the last of the wine and stood at the window for a moment before I turned back to the table. The itemized list was already drafted. Had been for 2 months, saved in a folder on my laptop labeled Reconciliation, which I had opened and opened again more times than I wanted to admit. I wasn't sure I would ever send it. People who take things from you don't usually keep records the way you do, but I sent it that night before I went to sleep. Just the list. No threats. No explanation beyond a single line at the top. Happy to discuss a repayment timeline whenever you're ready. My mother didn't respond for 6 days. Amber responded once. 4 days after the wedding, a message that said received and nothing else. I don't know if the money is coming. I'm not holding my breath. What I do know is this. The Wednesday after the wedding, Rhonda sent me a voicemail. She does voicemails instead of texts because she says texts feel too easy and she wants the people she loves to actually hear her voice. She said the evening was the most she had laughed since her husband passed away 5 years ago. She said she had forgotten what it felt like to sit at a table where everyone wanted to be there. She said she was thinking about coming back to Nashville more often. I listened to it on my terrace with my coffee in the early morning before the city got loud. I played it twice. I hadn't needed my family to see me. I had just needed to stop looking away. The people who take without asking count on you to think the cost is too high. The cost of pushing back. The cost of being honest. The cost of standing up at the table you've been funding and saying, actually, I'd like a seat. The cost isn't as high as they want you to believe. I know that now. I went inside, refilled my coffee, and sent Rhonda a text. Next month. Same table. You're already on the list. Her reply came in 30 seconds, just a string of heart emojis, which from Rhonda might as well have been a standing ovation. I went to my desk and opened my laptop. I had a new project in early development. Barely a concept, a different kind of tool, different market, different problem. The kind of thing that might take 4 or 5 years and a lot of late nights to be worth anything. I opened the file and started writing. I've thought a lot about what I actually did that Saturday. Not the dinner, not the post, the thing underneath all of it. For years I told myself that sending money was easier than having a conversation, and that was true. But what I didn't let myself admit was that I kept sending it because a part of me still believed that if I was useful enough, patient enough, invisible enough, something would eventually shift. That Amber would call one day just to ask how I was doing. That my mother would look at me without calculating what I could offer. I kept funding a version of the relationship that only existed in my head. That's not strength. That's a very expensive kind of wishful thinking. What changed wasn't the dinner. What changed was the moment I wired $8,000 and received a text 3 days later telling me my presence would make things awkward. Something in me finally went quiet. Not the defeated kind of quiet, the kind that comes when you stop arguing with the truth. The truth was simple. I had been paying for access to people who didn't value my company, and every time I absorbed it without a word, I was teaching them that the arrangement was acceptable, not because I was weak, because I was afraid that naming it would make it real. Here's what I understand now about the way actions compound over time. Every choice you make, to speak or stay silent, to set a limit or absorb a cost, lands somewhere. It doesn't disappear, it accumulates. My silence accumulated into $34,000 and a decade of being managed instead of loved. Amber's choices accumulated into a wedding night interrupted by strangers asking questions she didn't have clean answers to. My mother's choices accumulated into a phone call where her voice went small in a way I had never heard before. None of that happened because of one Saturday. It happened because of hundreds of smaller Saturdays that everyone thought didn't matter. The dinner mattered, not because it was grand, because I chose myself without asking permission first. And Rhonda. I keep coming back to Rhonda. My mother had decided years ago that Rhonda was a closed chapter, someone whose presence complicated the story she wanted to tell. But Rhonda sent me a voicemail the following Wednesday that I've listened to more times than I'll admit. She said she'd forgotten what it felt like to sit at a table where everyone wanted to be there. 11 years. That's how long she had been living as someone else's editing decision. That's what happens when people in positions of power, even informal power, family power, use it without thinking about the cost to the people being cut. The cost doesn't vanish, it waits. I'm not interested in punishing anyone. I sent the itemized list because honesty deserved a receipt. What happens next is up to them. I can't control that. I can only control whether I keep building something real with the people who actually show up. Harold is coming back next month. Rhonda is already planning the drive. Greta texted me a photo of her calendar with the date circled in red marker. That table is mine. I built it, and this time, every seat at it is earned.